In Battle Brothers, you play as a mercenary troop. Wait, didn't I start my War Tales video the same way? Okay, it's about mercenaries again, but the focus is different. Battle Brothers has a unique art style where characters are symbolized through icon-like sprites. It looks a bit like this was original a board game. There's also no main quest, so to speak. Side quests, yes, and for being as generic as they are, not written that badly. Like in War Tales, the most central aspect is money. Yes, you also need medicine, provisions and tools, but that can all be bought with money. The best way to make money is missions. Missions are randomized. Sometimes you kill bandits, other times undead. You can also protect caravans or deliver packages. With each mission, your renown increases. With more renown, you get better missions and better rewards, as well as revenue, troops, like cooks or scouts that give you bonuses outside of combat. You can also trade. Buy goods cheaply in one town and carry them till you can sell them for more in another. I found this less reliable, but a nice bonus income. You can outfit each character and level them up with perks and stats. Each level up, some stats increases more than others, seemingly like in Morrowind but with less control. The usual cycle is this. Go to a town, do all missions you can, then go to the next town. At one point you can explore on your own, but that is usually later. What you will do most of the time is combat. Combat is turn-based and you control up to 12 mercenaries on the battlefield, although the battle might be bigger. Each character can specialize in different weapons with different ranges. You have the classic crossbow, bow and even a cannon. For mid-range there are polearms and spears that can reach up to 2 tiles, and classic sword, axes and more for direct melee. Shields are incredibly useful and are a must for defensive characters. Each turn your character can act according to the initiative. Bigger armor and weapon means less initiative. Armor are like a second life bar. If the enemy doesn't circumvent your armor through luck, it will get damaged before your health. Speaking of luck, all attacks are chance based and the damage is also based on a dice roll. The battlefield is also semi-randomly chosen, and having the terrain advantage makes a huge difference. This is the only real problem I have with Battle Brothers. There is too much RNG. And let's talk about RNG a bit more. RNG stands for Randomized Numbers Generator, and within the video game context usually means that certain mechanics are randomized. Technically that is never the case, because computers can't really randomize numbers, and the NSA, among other Indian security organizations, did manage to reverse engineer many numbers within codes. But for most people, it's random enough. To understand why RNG is rooted in video games, history is helpful. In 1967, Siege of Bodenburg was invented by Henry Bodenstedt. It was a game evolved from chess and supported multiple troops and attacks, which success was based on dice rolls. 4 years later, in 1971, Gary Gygax and Jeff Perrin released Chainmail, a similar wargame with fantasy mixed in. Then in 1974, a milestone in tabletop RPG was born, from the rule set of Chainmail, Dungeons & Dragons. Dungeons & Dragons was influential. Many people played it. It kicked off the RPG genre almost all on its own and is still played and loved today. In Dungeons & Dragons you play with a group of between 2 and 6 players and a game master. Each player has a character, created based on the rule set. The game master plays the NPCs and describes what happens in the game. The combat is also turn-based and depends on dices. In classic role-playing games, RNG tries to simulate life. Most things that happen to us are seemingly random. The friends we have, or our partners. If only a little bit changed, you might have never met them. Your hair color and your looks could have been entirely different. And cascading from that, what other parts would have changed if luck played different that special day? Failure and success are in parts due to overlapping coincidences, and a dice roll tries to adapt this into the game. You also get many different situations, and not everything is predetermined in a game with luck. When video games emerged, early adopters looked out for what would fit in this brand new media. This is a trend often observable by new technologies. The first batch is usually about adaptation. Like in early radio shows, they cited poems. Very early in 1988, Pool of Radiance was made, the first video game based on D&D. That's short for Dungeons & Dragons. And of course, the rules were tried to convert into video game form. Many of the early video games were described as brutally hard due to this. And here lies the problem. In Dungeons and Dragons you have a flexible game with a human game master. When, due to luck, for example your weapon breaks, you can take another weapon. Try to disarm your opponent, pick up a rock and throw it. Run away, focus on blocking, till your friends slay the enemy. You can try to kick the enemy, hide, use magic, and. In pen and paper role-playing games, you can react in limitless ways. Even if luck played you, you can still come out on top. You have a randomized situation or opportunity, which is something I enjoy in games. Randomized enemies, levels, equipment, and so on. But the outcome of that situation is not entirely based on luck, but on your imagination, wits, and resourcefulness. In video games you have no game master, and so you cannot react differently when something happens. So in video games you have a randomized opportunity and a randomized outcome. Instead of reacting to a dice roll and meet the challenge, you lose due to a dice roll. It feels out of your control and leaves a bad aftertaste. In many video games I hate this. I usually try to circumvent this, and yes, I did save scum. And because I save scummed, I can say that RNG is too strong. In one battle you might lose all your troops, and after reloading you win without a loss. Battle Brothers, as well as many other video games, with the sole exception of Disco Elysium, does not incorporate RNG well into video game form. War Tales does this better in my opinion, as it feels more chess-like with very little RNG. I still enjoyed Battle Brothers. There is a lot to do and to explore. The combat could have been about 4 times faster though. Farewell.